2, 1. We're now at the 100th episode and a great reoccurring guest for Shark Week. Come on, let's hear it for Shark Week, people. Need a little sound effects. I wonder what a sound effect for Shark Month would be. But anye, Eric Glazer.
That's a compliment.
Boom, 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 boom. But Eric, great to have you back on the show. We appreciate you. You've been over in Europe again.
Yes.
Is this your second summer, or is this something you do all the time?
Something we do all the time since my children were born. Every year
Wow.
we go to a different place. Yeah.
That's a nice committed family trip.
Absolutely. The kids look forward to it. They've been everywhere. It's great.
And you dragged their aunt along, your sister?
I have dragged along my sister this time, 70 years old, never been out of the country. And we normally also drag along the grandmas, but this trip was a little too tough for them.
Right. Well, I'm available next year. So just putting it out there. But a lot of exciting things been happening in Florida. I know you're a little shy and bashful, and you're fairly new as an attorney. But just in your brief experience of law in Florida, what do you think that's going on, and what do you see on the horizon?
A lot of panic on the horizon, especially in those condominiums that are 3 stories or higher, and that have failed, unfortunately, to put away any reserves over the years. Those are condos that are about to go through hell, for lack of a better word. I mean, these people are really in trouble, again, because they just pretended that their building would never need repairs, and now the bill has come due all in one shot, and there's no money to fall back on. Not only that, starting now, basically, you're going to have to start reserving in full. So it's like double, triple whammy from all sides, and some people are not going to be able to afford it. We know that.
Eric, I had a theory pretty quick, close after Surfside was one of the things we're going to be seeing, like to your point, when the bill comes due, is big money just coming in, people walking away saying, you know what, I can't afford this anymore. I can't live here. Big money coming in, taking the real estate, bulldozing it, building high rises, updating everything, charging a lot of money, whatever. What do you say?
Let's take a neighborhood like North Miami. You guys are familiar with North Miami, right? A lot of 5-story, 6-story condominiums. Some have like 100 units, those type. And it's quite frankly in a poorer neighborhood than, let's say, Aventura. People have not been reserving, most of them, for forever. There are no reserves. They're going to now start having to reserves, paying for the structural integrity reserve studies, paying for all the repairs, and it's just not going to be possible. No way. No freaking way. It's not going to be possible. So I'm thinking in those areas, you're going to be riding past them one day, and you're going to be like, how the hell did that beautiful building get there? I don't remember that. And that's going to be all the time, all over the place.
Yep, neighborhood gentrification, similar to what they did to a lot of places in New York, right? I mean, it's inevitable. The money's going to go, especially if it's oceanfront. I mean, come on, man, this is right.
You're 100% right. The only fly in the ointment, so to say, is that you have to look at the governing documents of each condominium, because some condominiums say you can only terminate the condominium with 100%. So if just of the vote, so just one person says, "Too bad, I'm hanging in there. I don't want to do this."
Well, they can hang in until the building's red tagged.
Right. Then it becomes a situation where, due to like economic waste or safety, they can say, okay, forget what the documents say. It's just not economically feasible to keep this condominium going. So you'd have to go to court and have a judge find it's economically not feasible. And yet then you can knock it down, even if it's at 100, that's at 100%, the documents.
Eric, have you faced that? Has that situation happened with you?
It's happening. It's starting now. But now we're still in the infancy stage. Reserves, mandatory reserves come due. You have to start doing it January 2026. So, you know, a year and a half from now, it's going to get real tough. But everybody knows what's coming. So just go look, take a look at what's on the market in terms of condominium sales. You really wouldn't believe it. The amount of condos that are on the market now are astronomical because people know they're coming. It's tough to sell your condo. Very tough.
The South Florida Business Journal did an article yesterday about that and about the changing tide for condo values and all that stuff. And it's, you know, you got to figure out, everybody's got to figure out what they're going to do. But here's a little free advice from a guy who knows nothing. If you are one of those holdouts and you're going to get forced for your sale anyway, you do not want it to go to court. You want the investors that are coming in to not see it as distressed as it possibly is.
You said so smart. Sometimes you'll have somebody who thinks, oh, I'm going to be the last guy. The developers going to pay me the most. You wind up with crap. Believe me.
Right.
That gets killed. You want to be an idiot and hold out to the last second? Okay. Now you push the developer too far. Developer will do as much as they can do, believe me. But if you push a developer too far, okay, they'll go to court if they have to. They're not afraid of going to the judge.
Sure. So it's, you know, I don't want to start so negative, but it's the truth. In essence, the show of reality. And other buildings are doing a great job bringing themselves up to standards, and then they're going to be filling the reserves, and they're going to have a great life. But there's other ones that pull the plug.
Think about, let's not think about what's going on right now. Let's try to think 6-7 years ahead from now, which is not that far off. You know how 7 years ago, right?
Yep.
Florida, think of how the state of Florida is going to be. All of our buildings are going to have wonderful reserve accounts. All of our buildings have gone through inspections, right, by the county. All of them are going to be safe. Florida is going to have the best condominium program in the entire nation. And rest assured, the states and the rest of the country are going to be using Florida as a model. Is it going to be tough for the next few years? Of course it's going to be tough. That's because for the last 30 years, we let it go. You know, let's let everybody do nothing. But now, if we keep it the way it is for the next 6 or 7 years, think of how great our condominium is going to be. The safest and the best financially. So we got to stick it out for the next couple of years. After that, we're going to be really on great footing.
And once we fortify our buildings, we'll also be in a better shape with the insurance companies, which
absolutely, that's
another nightmare right in.
That's a great point that I missed. The insurance company should certainly give us a benefit after that. Let's see if they do. I will tell you this, now that you mentioned insurance. Finally, it looks like there's some competition in the insurance market here. Okay, some companies are coming in. As you know, with insurance, it brings prices down. So believe it or not, I got a bill for my own home where the price dropped $1,000. So
right.
I'm glad
a couple
I'm
people mentioned that lately.
Yeah, it's happening. It's happening. So far, so good, at least on the insurance level.
So I got to bring up the populist argument here. I apologize, but you know, especially, I know that this is happening in your guys' backyard. I'm up in Central Florida, New Smyrna Beach, but you know, it's here. It's going to continue. But you know, you're kind of in the new economic hub of the United States, right? As far as, you know, investments, companies relocating, everything, the world. Doesn't the gentrification kind of bother you a little bit? I mean, there's only a limited amount of people that are going to, okay, you're shaking your head, and that's cool. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there for consideration, because would we all believe or agree that gone are the days when, you know, a middle to upper middle class person is going to be able to afford a piece of the Florida dream on the ocean? I mean, that's gone. That's gone in 2024, isn't it? What does that look like in 6-7 years, Eric?
I had the honor of being interviewed by 60 Minutes last year. You want to see it? Google Eric Glazer 60 Minutes.
That's cool, dude.
It's a great episode. It's one of the few I've watched in the last 10 years.
Yeah, right.
My answer was, I think they concluded the whole segment with the days of grandma and grandpa coming to Florida to live here in a condominium with solely Social Security as their income, those days are gone forever. That's not going to happen. Can't happen.
No.
The cost of living in a condominium is simply going to be too high. But you know, your question started out with, you know, I think it was kind of like, do you feel bad about that? I don't know how to answer that, because I'm saying this with all love and respect for the elderly community. The truth is, all of them, every year for 30 years, waived reserves and waived
Yep.
reserves and waived reserves. Come on, these are not dumb people. These are smart people. They knew that eventually the building's going to need a major repair, and they gambled. And you know what their thinking was? Well, I'm not going to be the one that's living
Oh yeah.
in the
I'm not
property.
going to be around.
I'm not going to be here. Well, you know, they were unlucky. They lived.
Yeah.
They were unlucky.
But
What can
not only did they not fund the reserves, they did not take care of their building. Now, you've got to paint and seal your building every 7 years. And if you wait till 10 years, it's like double.
Kelly, you know what happens when you don't paint? You have no, I mean, as you know, you mentioned it.
You call LGC.
Okay, so you can tell everybody obviously what it means. No, I won't. I certainly don't want to steal your thunder. But you know, you could say, what happens when you don't paint and waterproof?
Sure. Well, and you're part of our circle of everything that's going on. I mean, I always tell people, secondly, you hire an owner's rep, which is LGC. First, you talk to your attorney, your good attorney. Talk to Eric, okay? You know, talk to the Lessers of the world. You want to make sure that you do everything properly, but maintaining your building, and you don't need us. You know, and that's, you know, and we tell people all the time, especially on the newer buildings, you know, they'll sit there and wait 10, 15 years before they do anything really besides mow the lawn. It's like, you're way too late.
Even painting and waterproofing, I mean, like I said, how much damage did you do to a building simply by failing to maintain waterproof? That can lead to so many different types of problems. Walls collapsing, windows not working anymore, electrical problems, on and on. I mean, just
major water leaks.
Okay, right. You do right. I mean, flooring, and it goes on and on. So at a minimum, paint the building and do waterproofing. They won't even do that for 20, 30 years. So, you know, when you ask me, do I feel bad? I got to be honest and say, for those people who didn't reserve and didn't maintain their building, no, I don't feel bad. How do you want me to feel bad? I can't. I honestly can't. You know, you're not stupid people. You knew, come on, you knew eventually what was going to happen. And it happened while you were alive. And, you know, sometimes you roll a 7. You gamble and you roll a 7, right? So they rolled a 7. What can I say?
What kind of pushback, if any, are you getting from your clients? Meaning, like, do they finally understand when a building falls down, it's time to wake the hell up? Or is it fighting, kicking, screaming? What does it look like out there?
You know, little history about how these bills came into play, how all this came into play really quick. You say, is it time to wake up? Believe it or not, after the buildings collapsed, the Florida legislature was in session, right? So I'm sitting there watching, you know, the session, and certainly you think that at the end of the session, right after 98 people died, there's certainly going to be a consensus as to the safety bills that have to be made, right? Believe it or not, okay, believe it or not, the legislature went home without a bill. They couldn't agree. 90 people just died, and they went home without a bill.
Yep.
It was a spit in the face to the victims and their families. So I'm honest to God, you can check it for yourself. That day, I wrote an overnight letter to Governor DeSantis, and I said, you know, Governor, your own party, who controls everything in Tallahassee, just slapped you in the face and threw you under the bus. If another building falls on your watch, and it will, if nothing's done, your political career is done, because you knew what happened and you didn't do anything. So I urged the governor, call the legislature back into session, do something. I went on CBS News, on Jim DeFeedy's show, fought it like hell, embarrassed the Republicans, quite frankly, of which I am. Went on my own show, embarrass the hell out of the legislature. What do you know? The governor calls the legislature back into session. And if you, under the guise of fixing the insurance crisis, which we know still isn't fixed, but 4 days later, they fixed the safety issues and the inspection issues. Now, if you look at the video from 60 Minutes, the vote was 110 to nothing, right? So it looks like everybody was right away, they did the right thing. The truth is, went home without a bill, believe it or not. And only after the governor called them back into session did they have a bill. So that's the truth behind the bill. That's how it got
right. Sure, and it's amazing, and it's still they're still not perfect bills.
No,
they're moving in the right direction, but if anything was reckless.
But can you believe that now Dade and Broward are a little different, but could you believe that in every single county in the rest of the state, it was always possible to build a condominium, a freaking skyscraper, and that building never needed to be inspected ever again? Think of what we're saying. I know it's hard to believe. That building never needed to be inspected again. The condominium gets to 50, 60, 70 years, doesn't mean a thing. Nobody ever had to inspect that building again. So finally, we're at a situation where that changed. Obviously, that needed to be changed.
What did they miss? What did they miss?
I don't know.
Everything.
Well, yeah, I guess the answer is everything, right?
No. I guess I'll be more specific with the bill that came out. What did they miss? That's what I'm looking for.
The argument, quite frankly, is the other way. The argument is, wow, they went overboard.
Okay.
For example, a lot of the things that you're now required to reserve for in your structural integrity reserve study, people are saying, oh, come on, that's things that don't go for another 70, 80 years. We shouldn't have to reserve for that. So a lot of the thinking is they went overboard, actually, when it comes to what we now have to do. I don't think so. I think it was actually amended this year to take away some of those things. So I think we were pretty much exactly where we need to be. And look, we just did this. This is brand new law. Over time, and we're only going to know over time, we realize, okay, you know what? This needs to be changed. That needs to be changed. It's a work in progress. Everybody knows that. It's a brand new bill. Let's see how it pans out each year. And every year, if it needs to be tweaked a little bit, believe me, the legislature will tweak it. Nobody's fooling around now with these bills. These are very serious now. These are very, very, very high on the radar. You know, sometimes there are certain topics at the state level that are very high on the agenda for that year. I can tell you this topic, condominiums, safety, are going to be high on the agenda for this year and years to come. This is a hot topic.
And it has to stay hot. That's always my concern. I don't want influences coming in.
Yeah, Representative Vicky Lopez was on my show. I met with her, and I can tell you that she next year has already started drafting a bill called Condo 4.0. She feels that what she did right now is Condo 3.0, and next year is going to be Condo 4.0. And don't be surprised that there's a Condo 5.0 and 6.0. I mean, this is going to be on the radar for a long time to come. And good. Like I said, like we all know, 98 lives, unfortunately, perished.
I'm going to take a leap of faith on this one, on this comment, by thinking that you're probably pretty politically connected. How come it took so long? Did you see any of this stuff on the horizon? I'm sure you did. Have you been out there, prior to Surfside, squawking to Tallahassee and saying, when the hell are you guys going to do something?
No, true story. And honest to God, May 2018, I went to a board meeting of a community, 55 and over community in Sunrise. And the only thing that they were doing that night was passing a $300 special assessment. Not 300 per month, not 300 per month, not 300 per week, or what? One $300 special assessment.
Wow.
I tell you, I had old women coming to me begging me Mr. Glazer, please don't let them do this to us. Please, please. I left that night. I give you my word. You can check it for yourself. I'm not overemphasizing this. I'm not, making it up. What's the word? Embellishing. That night, I came home and I said, my God, the state of Florida is in such insane trouble. If people can't pay a $300 assessment, the $3,000 assessments are coming. The $30,000 assessments are coming. So that night, I do a blog each week. That night, I wrote a blog about how the state of Florida is in trouble. We need mandatory reserves. And I sent it to every single member of the Florida legislature.
Okay.
Coincidentally, May 2018 was the same exact time that Champlain Towers in Surfside was being inspected by their engineers, and they were told they need a tremendous amount of work, and they didn't have any money. So I send my blog to every member of the Florida legislature, demanding, begging that we have some form of reserves finally in Florida. Ignored until a collapse of a building and 98 people died. As soon as that happened, oh my God, I guess we need mandatory reserves. There were a lot of people, that were always fighting against mandatory reserves. Look it up. I won't say it on your show. I'm not here to embarrass anybody. Look it up.
Just go to DuckDuckGo, people.
Yeah,
DuckDuckGo.
Just look it up. There's a lot of groups, a lot of firms that
lobbyists
who were saying no, reserves is a terrible thing. Let people decide. Well, you know why the Champlain Towers fell? You can argue all day long about, was it built too close to another building? Was the materials no good? Did the pool deck just fail? It failed because there were no reserves.
No, that's secondary.
Yeah.
The real reason was because they didn't maintain the building.
Okay, I'll give you that. But understand, if
you would maintain the building for 40 years, I don't care. You wouldn't have needed reserves if you were paying as you go, which was the theory of no reserves, right, but they didn't do it.
I won't argue with that. So we're on the same page, though.
Yeah, right? I know. Yeah, I know. I just get a little fired up about that subject.
No, me too. But let me tell you the numbers. In the end, they needed $15 million to make the repair. They had $700,000 in the bank. $700,000. Okay, they were 14.
And interest rates were 2.5% at that point.
Right. Exact. Could have got a cheap loan. Exactly.
But you're saying it was 15 million. Well, let me say something really clear when it comes to concrete restoration and what they needed. You don't know how much it's going to cost till you're done with the job.
Right.
There's a good way to prepare for that to get things to work correctly. But it could have been 15, it could have been 20, it could have been 10. But the fact of the matter is they only needed that because for 40 years they kicked the can down the road.
Well, you are 100% right, because 3 years earlier, when they got the original bill, I believe like in 2018, like I mentioned, the bill to fix it at that time, I believe, was $5 million and change.
Once again, a guesstimate.
Yeah, right. Of course. No, my point being that between 2018 and 2021, right, the damages were incurring exponentially.
Absolutely.
So the bill went in 3 years, and these are rough numbers. The bill went in 3 years from something like 5 million to 15 million because they didn't fix it in 2018. Think about that.
And it might have been really 7 million and 20 million.
Right.
But the point is, and Eric, you're 100% correct. The exponential amount of what it costs goes up rapidly each month that you delay taking care of your building. It's once that cancer starts, you know how it is. It goes from stage 1 to stage 4 like that.
So wouldn't it have been nice if the bill that we have now was in effect 10 years ago, right? And they would have had to reserve for concrete restoration and structural repairs, and they would have had a few million in the bank at the time, right? They certainly could have had a few million. Instead, they had what meant to virtually nothing. And by the way, they were in the middle of COVID at the time. Go ask people for a special assessment in the middle of COVID. I mean, It's like they were doomed. We were in
It was a terrible storm, terrible. And
Yeah.
I actually have a friend of mine whose aunt perished that day and or that evening. It was such a terrible story. The what we take from it is what we're doing now. And thank God Tallahassee woke up. Thank God you reached out to them and said, hey, you can't leave session like this. And I think things are moving in the right direction. I love that you said, let's look 7 years down the road where Florida once again is the state everybody wants to be in because everything's going so well.
Exactly. It's going to be a tough ride. I'm not denying that it's not going to be a tough ride for the next few years. For a lot of people, it's going to be tough. After that, after the market kind of finds its place, right? And it will, it always does. After that, okay, we got a state where all the condos are fixed, and everything is being reserved. What's better than that? We got the best condo market in the entire country after we get past this.
Give us a little peek behind the legislative curtain as far as the powers, the power of the lobbyists. So we know how powerful the insurance lobbyists are in the state of Florida. I guess, with that insurance reform, not exactly consumer friendly, homeowner friendly. I was pretty surprised by that. As much as I love Florida and I'll never live anywhere else, it doesn't seem to be the most consumer friendly in some certain circumstances. What was some of the lobbying efforts that were holding back a lot of the stuff that you saw in 2018, where you could never get any traction regarding some of the safety reforms and reserve reforms that were needed to protect these folks?
So the idea, a couple of things. The idea was anything that made anybody pay even an additional penny was terrible, and this is going to kill the condo market, and it's going to drive elderly people out of their homes, no matter what. If we said everybody pay $10 a month, there were going to be lobbyists out there that were going to be against it. That's the bottom line. That was always the case. That was always the fight. And who's the bigger lobby? The biggest lobby in the state, perhaps next to the banks, are the developers. So
got it. That's what I'm looking for. Identification. Got it.
Let me tell you what the real problem is. Developers never had to put in their budget, when they prepare a budget for their brand new building, they can give you a budget that doesn't show any reserves, right?
Yep.
So you get a budget sent to you and it's like, wow, I could live here for $300 a month. And that's a BS number. I always tell the story when I was a kid growing up in Brooklyn. Red Buttons. Was it Red Buttons or Red Skelton? One of the two.
Red Skelton.
Red Skelton. Okay. He used to give a commercial in New York that was trying to sell the Century Village units down here. And he would say, come on down to Century Village where you got golf, where you got swimming, where you got tennis, where you got boating, on and on, these beautiful things. And you could live here for the price of $199 a month, right?
Oh my God.
People in New York are going, oh, can't wait to retire, whatever, get down.
Right.
That commercial was a lie.
Yep.
The commercial should have said you could live here for $199 a month, plus your share of $50 million in concrete damages 25 years from now. If the commercial was honest, that's what the commercial would have said. But the problem is that you said who was the tough lobby? The developers had the best lobby. They didn't have to disclose that anybody that was coming down had to put away money for reserves or should put away money for reserves. The budget that the developer prepared and showed to these new buyers did not include reserves. So sure, the number that everybody saw on TV, yes, when they got here, it was $199 a month, but they had no idea what they were in for 25, 30 years from now.
Awesome. That's great, man.
In all fairness, when you buy a house, do they tell you, hey, besides buying this house, you're going to have to maintain it for the next 30 years?
Oh, right. I get that. But there's this thinking that people, especially elderly people, this is how they think. And it's...
Hey, Wayne's one of those people.
I am not, dude. You are. Listen, Kelly's the oldest one by 10 years over us.
I'm ready to move into Century Village too. So, and I'm not picking on Century Village, believe me. I'm just telling you what the commercial that I saw.
And they're beautiful properties still to this day.
My mom lives there, okay? But how can I say it? Elderly people have this way of thinking that, I don't have to pay for it. The condo will pay for it. Well, they don't realize that they are the condo. You know what I'm saying? They just don't.
I say that all the time.
The roof falls off, the condo will pay for it.
Yeah. Who is this condo?
They are the condo. And I'm not saying it to make fun by any means, but they don't realize they're the condo. There's no such thing as, the condo will pay for it.
Well, I love it when people sue the condo. You just sued yourself and your neighbors. So we're out of time, but I do want to touch on one more thing because you're talking about lobbyists. And there was a group against fire protection in the state of Florida. And they've got the engineered life safety system where you can partially sprinkler and then or full sprinkler if you don't do it in time. And I want to scream because people think, oh, I can just opt out. No, if you opt out of partial, you go to full.
Listen, now you have to have one or the other, and the time periods are up. You either have to have sprinklers or an engineered life safety system, even if you previously opted out of the fire sprinkler system.
Yeah,
you still have to have one or the other. So
people thought they were opting out completely. That's not what the opt out meant.
Not do it anymore. And just to tell you that situation should have been cured years ago. Do you know how many times that was kicked down the road? This is years time or so it was kicked down the road. If the original bill would have passed 7, 8, 10 years ago, we would have had this over and done with already. But when you talk about lobbyists, there were always lobbyists that were against that. Finally, my education bill passed this year. Mandatory education for all board members. Have to take it. Can't sign that stupid form anymore that says I get certified because I read the damn documents. What a waste, right? Now you have to get certified by taking a class. Thank God. Do you know the opposition I had to that? How many years I had the opposition I had to that? So literally anything that made a board member do anything at all, you can check it out yourselves. There was always lobbyists against it. Building safety can go to hell. Education can go to hell. Sprinkler systems can go to hell. You look it up. All the time there were lobbyists against it. And all of this changed. All of this changed only because 98 people died. Understand, if 98 people didn't die, none of this would happen. So I always tell the families of the victims, I promise you, your family members did not die in vain. What they did for the state of Florida, you could, never repay them for. They did. Unfortunately, it took their passing, but they did an incredible thing for the state of Florida going forward. So, it's a strange thing. What do you say? You thank them? I don't know if that's the right word, but we certainly owe them a debt of gratitude. No question.
Well, I think to kind of wrap this up, everybody go and look at Eric's interview on YouTube with 60 Minutes. I'm certainly going to. I think everybody that's watching this needs to thank you for everything that you're doing for us in the industry. How can people get a hold of you if they want to?
Thank you so much, Wayne. Office number 954-983-1112. Firm is Glazer and Sachs. Again, 954-983-1112.
Appreciate you, my brother. Thank you.
You also do a podcast, and for people that go to the L&L expos and other expos, Eric teaches a class that's always the most filled class, and it's incredible. You definitely have a gift, and you're a gift to Florida.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, Eric. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you both. It's been an honor.
Everybody have a great day. We'll see you next year on Shark Month.
Take care.